What's up, F1 fans, and welcome back to the channel. So the British Grand Prix, yeah, we might have been robbed of a grandstand finish because of that late safety car, but man, Silverstone still gave us plenty of storylines to break down. We are exactly 9 rounds into this frantic 2026 season, and the development war is absolutely brutal right now. The top teams are inflicting serious damage on each other. The battle for best of the rest is getting spicy. And at the back of the grid, well, some mistakes are becoming unforgivable. Today we are diving into the winners and losers from the British Grand Prix. Do me a quick favour, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get right into it. Let's kick things off with a massive winner, Charles Leclerc. Look, last year it almost felt like Leclerc was going to be overshadowed by Lewis Hamilton's historic move to Ferrari. And to be fair, it was Lewis who got the Scuderia back to winning ways earlier this year in Barcelona. Truck racing, I did a little bit of single-seater touring cars, sports cars, and Charles has definitely struggled with the SF26, especially adapting to that brake setup that Hamilton loves so much. But Silverstone, Charles was untouchable. He bounced back from some rough qualifying sessions, put the car on the front row right next to Antonelli, absolutely nailed the race start, and never looked like he was giving up that lead. Post-race, Charles said he finally found a sweet spot where he feels comfortable with the car and that it gives him massive confidence moving forward. As he pointed out, things change fast in F1. If he keeps this momentum, the championship narrative is going to flip once again. Moving over to our first loser, Kimi Antonelli, and frankly the Mercedes team. Seriously, Mercedes loves making things hard for themselves, don't they? With the car and the 2026 power unit they have, they should be miles ahead. Instead, reliability gremlins are still haunting them. First, George Russell looked like he was going to suffer another puncture from debris, but then the nightmare hit Antonelli. He had a bizarre wheel guard failure that completely messed up the front left corner of his car. Because he lost so much aero, the championship leader couldn't keep the car on the track and got slapped with a brutal 5-second penalty for track limits. Was the penalty harsh considering the car was broken? Maybe. But look, if the car can't safely stay on the tarmac, the steward's sympathy runs out pretty quickly. But Antonelli's pain brings us to our next winner, George Russell. Talk about capitalizing on the chaos. George is now just 1 race away in terms of points from taking the championship lead, with Hamilton lurking just 7 points behind. This title fight is wide open. Now, this isn't the first time recently that George has lucked out a bit. Antonelli definitely looked faster in Austria. George even admitted he probably only deserved P3 behind Kimi and Charles. But after surviving his own puncture scare to bring it home in P2, he won't care. The terrible luck that usually haunts George seems to finally be balancing out and heading to the other side of the garage. Now for a massive loser, Red Bull Racing. Whatever progress they made with that heavily upgraded RB22 in Austria completely vanished at Silverstone. The energy deployment deficit they have compared to Mercedes and Ferrari is just brutal right now. Max Verstappen and Isaac Hadjar spent the whole weekend fighting the car-weird gear shifts, terrible balance, you name it. Max was already fuming after qualifying, but it got downright scary in the race when he spun into the gravel at Stowe because of a second rear wing failure. Max was furious on the mic, calling it incredibly dangerous, and he's not wrong. With Verstappen in the wall and Antonelli's penalty, Hadjar inherited a very flattering P5, but looking ahead to Spa, Red Bull is in serious trouble. Let's lighten the mood with a winner, the Racing Bulls. The Red Bull sister team has all the momentum in the world right now as the best of the rest in the 2026 midfield. Liam Lawson just made his 4th straight Q3 appearance, and Arvid Lindblad grabs P10 for the 2nd weekend in a row. Truck racing, I did a little bit of single-seater touring cars, sports cars, and they executed a flawless double points finish, crossing the line in P6 and P7. And honestly, they weren't even that far behind Hadjar when the safety car came out. With this result, they are breathing right down Alpine's neck for P5 in the Constructors. Massive shout out to that garage. Over to the losers, McLaren. It feels harsh to say their season is falling apart, but the gap between them and the top two teams is growing. Part of it is not optimizing that Merc engine like the factory team does, but mostly they just lack aero efficiency and load. Lando Norris did brilliant damage limitation to finish P4, mostly thanks to other people's DNFs, but Oscar Piastri's race was ruined on lap 1 after he had to pit for a new front wing. Like Red Bull, McLaren is going to be a sitting duck on the straights in Spa, and their next big upgrade isn't until Hungary. Are they paying the price for fighting Red Bull to the bitter end last year while Merc and Ferrari developed their 2026 cars early? Probably. Another brilliant winner this week is Gabriel Bortoleto. Audi hasn't scored a single point since the season opener in Melbourne. They've thrown away so many chances, but they did not miss the golden opportunity Silverstone handed them. Despite an obvious engine deficit on a power-heavy track, Bortoleto drove beautifully to hold off both Alpines and lock down P8. When a reporter asked him if Australia felt like an eternity ago, he laughed and said it felt like 3 or 4 eternities. Amazing effort from the Brazilian to finally get Audi back in the points. And finally, our last loser, Haas. I mean, I could dunk on Aston Martin here like I do every week, but why keep kicking them when they are down? Let's talk about Haas. After a really solid start to the year, they are in free fall in the midfield, 0 points in the last 3 races. The car desperately needs updates, and Silverstone was just miserable. Esteban Ocon had a painfully slow pit stop, just as he was starting to feel comfortable in the VF26, and Ollie Behrman got shoved wide by Albon at the start. Just a weekend to forget for the American squad. And that wraps up my winners and losers for the 2026 British Grand Prix. But now I want to hear from you guys. Drop a comment down below. Do you think Antonelli's 5-second penalty was too harsh? And is Charles Leclerc officially back in the title fight? Let's argue in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell so you don't miss our preview for Spa next week. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.